Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we'll be covering some of my tips for Project Zomboid that I wish I'd known when I first picked up the game. Most of these might seem pretty small, but they'll be super handy, especially if you haven't played the game for very long. I'd be willing to bet that many experienced players might not know about some of these as well. If you do find this video useful, consider dropping it a like and subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot as a creator. I also stream Project Zomboid on Twitch almost every day at twitch.tv/MrAtomicDuck, so feel free to swing by to watch some live gameplay or just ask me any questions you have about the game. So let's jump in with a tip that I think many new players are going to find incredibly useful, especially if you like living out in the sticks or take frequent trips through wooded areas. You might know from your in-game experience already, but moving through these areas can cause a bit of a pain, scratching up your clothes on trees and even damaging you and causing bleeding at times. If you right click and select walk to and then click on where you'd like to move to, the game will actually pick the best route for you automatically and will only travel through trees if absolutely necessary. Most of them it will avoid altogether and will only go through them when it needs to. This can be a lifesaver if you're fleeing from zombies and need to make an escape through the forest quickly without much impediment. Next up are hidden stashes. This applies to both the vanilla map and modded maps, but you'll be able to find hidden stashes that survivors have left behind in several locations, or ones that the creators of the map have just chosen to hide somewhere, which often hide items like guns or ammo more than anything else. It's not often a huge amount of items, but it's cool to see and worth keeping an eye out for. On modded maps, this can get even crazier. I won't give away too much, but as a single example of one hidden stash, this container hanging from a crane in Raven Creek comes packed with ammo and weapons. When I passed it the first time, I didn't even think about it as I figured it was inaccessible, but if you build a set of stairs, you can actually reach the doorway, break in, and it'll definitely be worth your while. It's absolutely full to the brim. And this is obviously just one example, there are many more around the map. The next one I wanted to talk about is vehicles. Vehicles have a few things that you might not know about them when you first start playing, but the main one I'd say that caught me out originally, and I think many others perhaps, is that you can still get into a vehicle that's locked. Right click on one of the doors and you can smash the windshield to open the door. Once inside, click on the door lock symbol on the dashboard and the vehicle will be unlocked. Always make sure you check both the ignition and the glove box for a key. Sometimes the key is laying outside of the vehicle on the ground too, but can sometimes actually be stuck under a car or a wreck nearby, so it's worth having a bit of a scan around as well using your inventory tab just to see if it's lurking anywhere that you haven't seen. Other than that, like I mentioned, just check the glove box. Lastly, if you are going to smash into a car by breaking the windshield or something like that, please do make sure that you have a weapon equipped at the time, otherwise your character will use your elbow and this can result in bleeding. Okay, so this next one is a bit of a multi-tip, but I'm going to go ahead and group these together under one banner. Sound can be your best friend and your worst enemy, so manipulate it as you see fit, but be wary of certain sound cues. There are several items in this game that can draw zombies to a designated position simply with the use of sound. You can craft noisemakers with the electrical skill, or you can find an alarm clock, for example, which you can set an alarm to a certain time and place it on one side of a building and then move to the other side, and when it goes off it's going to draw out all of the zombies in a small radius around it, which can be quite useful if you're looking to get inside and start some looting. Alternatively, you can press Q when stood up straight and this will cause your character to yell and draw zombies to your location. Similarly, if you're crouching or in a stealth mode as some people call it, you can actually whisper to drag some zombies to you, and this is like a really short range audio cue which is great for pulling away one or two zombies from a larger group. For much larger groups, I like to use a vehicle. Stay slightly ahead of a pack of zombies with a car and you'll be able to use it to lure them from a location you want to access. Once you think they're far enough away, break contact with them and swing around the block again to get parked up for some looting. This is quite often a good tactic for military bases, gas stations, or anywhere else that you might find yourself needing a vehicle to visit anyway. It might take a few tries to lure all the zombies out and then get them to follow you away from the location, but believe me, it's a really good strategy to pull them away from the place you're looking to loot. Similarly, however, sound can be your worst enemy at times. Make sure you check closets and dressers for alarm clocks clocks if you're planning on staying somewhere overnight, for example. Sometimes these will spawn with alarms already set, and they can make for a disaster if they go off in the night. House alarms are another one that can seriously mess up your day, but there's a telltale sign to an alarm going off when you first enter a building. You'll hear a couple of seconds of static, which almost sounds like an audio clip didn't have its background removed quite properly, which is a bit of a weird one. But anyway, it's pretty noticeable once you get used to hearing it. It's just a couple of seconds, but it might be what you need to get out alive in those situations. The next one I wanted to talk about is radios and TVs. We'll start with radios. Every so often you'll come across a radio, either handheld or stationary, that will be tuned to the emergency broadcast frequency. The sooner you can get your hands on one of these radios, the better. On a day-to-day basis, it'll tell you the upcoming weather conditions for the next day, which will help you plan your next steps, and especially help when it comes to growing crops and rainfall levels. However, the biggest advantage these radios offer you in the vanilla game is that they will actually tell you the day before the helicopter event is due to occur. If you're not familiar with the helicopter event, it'll draw huge hordes of zombies to your current location. So my best advice for this is to make sure you're ideally in a vehicle, but are most certainly a fair way a distance from your base. Having a vehicle means that you can stay on the move and ultimately unhindered by the hordes of zombies, and your base won't get overrun because obviously you're not there. So yeah, radios are pretty good if they're on the emergency frequency. TVs can give you a cool insight into the developing story of the apocalypse if you watch the news during the early game, but its biggest use is from the Life and Living channel. Tune in at 6 AM for a cooking show, 12 PM for a carpentry show, and 6 PM for survival skills. This will give you XP in those areas and help you level up your character ready for the mid to late game. If you compare these with the XP multipliers given by books, this is even better. Carpentry is especially useful, so try to catch as many of these shows as you can in the first 9 days before the TV stations stop broadcasting. This next one is a really useful one for both avid base decorators and survivalists alike, and that's knowing how to use the pick up and place mechanics. First and foremost, these will help you survive in more ways than one. If you ever find yourself scrambling into a building whilst being chased by a horde of zombies, picking up furniture using the button on the left hand side of your screen and then placing it by the entrance can buy you some much needed time and keep hordes at bay whilst you formulate an exit strategy. It also helps to make things more manageable and allows you to thin their numbers gradually instead of having them charge you all at once. I like to use dumpsters as barricades outside of gates that I'm basing at as well, and these have some really high health pools and take quite some time for zombies to break through, so they're really good for putting outside like garage doors and stuff like that as well. On top of that, zombies won't actually destroy furniture items like these unless they are aggroed and given a reason to do so, whereas they can start destroying doors, windows, and gates just because they feel like it. So placing them outside of the windows to your base will keep them intact for much longer. Moving items has another prevalent use when it comes to furnishing your base. Not only can you move water coolers with 250 units of clean water at the cost of just 5 kilograms of weight, but you can also move things like ovens, sofas, beds, whatever you want really. So if you want to decorate your base to look like the best apocalypse safe house you've ever seen, keep this in mind. You can even pick paintings off the walls and move them to your hideout if you feel like it. Lastly, I wanted to give a quick mention to the use of fences and windows during combat. If you're a new player, this might not be something you realize initially, but zombies will fall over fences and window ledges when using them. That much I'm guessing you've probably seen already. There's a window when they first hit the ground and just after they start to recover as well, where you can land a one-hit kill because they're already on the floor. This has helped me kill overwhelming amounts of zombies more times than I can count, just by using parts of the environment to my advantage. Do be careful though, because they can also take a swipe at you if you're close enough when they first enter, and mistiming your attack can result in being knocked back or even knocked down and stunned for a moment, which can obviously result in a very quick death. It might take a little time to get used to, but this is a seriously helpful one in those intense moments where you've got zombies coming at you from all sides. There's a bunch more tips I feel like new players could benefit from, but to keep this video short and concise, I'm going to stop there for now. If there's any you think that new players or veterans alike would appreciate, feel free to drop it in the comments to help someone learning the game. Lastly, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Project Zomboid videos just like this one. Take care folks, and I'll see you all in the next one.